The grand ballroom was adorned with sparkling decorations, and the soft melody of music filled the air as guests mingled and exchanged pleasantries. Despite the festive atmosphere, a sense of unease settled over me as I spotted Dorothy across the room. Memories of her cruel taunts and relentless bullying from our middle school days flooded back, causing my stomach to churn with anxiety. Summoning all my courage, I navigated through the crowd until I stood before her, trying to ignore the mocking smirk that played on her lips. "Edward," she greeted me with feigned politeness, her tone laced with condescension. "What a surprise to see you here. Still working in that dreary factory, I presume." I forced a tight-lipped smile, refusing to let her get under my skin. "Yes, Dorothy, still proud of my work at the factory. It pays the bills." Dorothy's laughter rang out like tinkling bells, though there was a sharp edge to it. "Oh, Edward, always the joker. But really, you should aim higher. Unlike my husband, who's a Harvard-educated director, you're just a factory worker." I gritted my teeth, fighting the urge to lash out at her. Instead, I maintained my composure, determined not to let her see how much her words still stung after all these years. Before I could respond, a voice chimed in from beside me. "Excuse me, Dorothy, Edward. Mind if I join the conversation?" It was Betty, my wife, her warm smile a beacon of comfort amidst the tension. Dorothy's expression turned frosty, but she plastered on a fake smile nonetheless. "Of course, Betty. How lovely to see you." Betty's gaze never wavered as she addressed Dorothy. "Likewise, Dorothy. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. It's a shame you don't appreciate the value of hard work, regardless of one's occupation." Dorothy's facade cracked for a moment, her eyes narrowing with disdain. "Well, some of us prefer to aim for success, rather than settle for mediocrity." Betty's smile remained unwavering. "Success comes in many forms, Dorothy, and I believe Edward has found his own version of it." Despite Betty's intervention, the tension between Dorothy and me lingered like a dark cloud overhead. As the evening progressed, I found myself unable to shake off the memories of Dorothy's past cruelty, each bar of sheet through reopening old wounds. "Dorothy," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. "I've worked hard to get where I am today, regardless of what you may think of my occupation." Dorothy's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Oh, please, Edward. Don't act like you've accomplished anything worthwhile. You're just a factory worker, while my husband is a successful director." Her words cut deep, but I refused to let her see how much they hurt. Success isn't measured by job titles, Dorothy. It's about integrity, hard work, and treating others with respect. Qualities you seem to have forgotten. Dorothy scoffed, rolling her eyes dismissively, spoken like a true underachiever. "But then again, what can I expect from someone like you?" Before I could respond, Betty stepped forward, her presence a calming influence amidst the brewing storm. "Dorothy, perhaps it's time you reevaluate your definition of success. Edward has accomplished more than you realize, and his character speaks volumes about who he is as a person." Dorothy's facade faltered for a moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features, but just as quickly, she regained her composure, her pride refusing to let her back down. "Well, I suppose everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I stand by what I said." As Dorothy turned to leave, I couldn't help but feel a pain of disappointment. Despite everything, it seemed she was still the same arrogant bully from our middle school days, unwilling to acknowledge the growth and success of others. Betty squeezed my hand reassuringly, her silent support a source of strength. Together, we faced the confrontation with the past, knowing that no matter what Dorothy said or did, we would rise above it. The revelation of my current position as the president of the company had stunned Dorothy and her husband, Ronald. Their disbelief was palpable, their faces contorted with a mix of shock and indignation. As the truth sank in, I could see the realization dawning in Dorothy's eyes, though she refused to acknowledge it. "President? You?" Dorothy's voice dripped with skepticism, her tone laced with disdain. "That's impossible. You're just a factory worker." I stood my ground, refusing to let her undermine my achievements. "Believe it or not, Dorothy, it's the truth. I've worked hard to get where I am today, despite the obstacles I've faced along the way." "Ronald," who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, his voice tinged with disbelief. But how? How did someone like you end up as the president of this company? I met his gaze head on, my resolve unwavering. It's simple, Raoul. I earned it through dedication, perseverance, and a commitment to excellence, something I'm sure you can appreciate, given your own aspirations. Dorothy's eyes narrowed, her pride refusing to accept the reality before her. This is ridiculous. There's no way someone like you could be in charge of this company. It's preposterous. Before I could respond, Betty stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Actually, Dorothy, it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Edward's rise to president is a testament to his hard work and leadership qualities. Dorothy's face flushed with anger, her pride wounded by the truth she refused to accept. Well, I don't believe it for a second. You're just trying to save face, Edward. But deep down, we both know the truth. With that, Dorothy turned on her heel and stormed off, her refusal to acknowledge reality a stark reminder of the person she had always been. But as she left, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication, knowing that despite her disbelief, I had proven myself capable of achieving success beyond her wildest imagination. As Dorothy and Ronald's disbelief lingered in the air, Betty's eyes sparkled with determination. She had been silently observing the confrontation, her mind already formulating a plan to teach Dorothy and Ronald a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. Edward, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the din of the party. I have an idea. Follow my lead. Intrigued by Betty's sudden urgency, I nodded in agreement, trusting her intuition implicitly. Together, we moved away from the crowd, finding a secluded corner where we could speak freely. Betty, what's going on? I asked, curiosity piqued by the intensity in her eyes. Betty's smile was enigmatic, her excitement barely contained. I have a plan to show Dorothy and Ronald the error of their ways, but we'll need to act quickly if we want to pull it off. I leaned in closer, eager to hear her strategy. What do you have in mind? Betty's gaze flickered with mischief as she outlined her plan, each detail more audacious than the last. As she spoke, I couldn't help but marvel at her ingenuity, grateful to have such a clever and resourceful partner by my side. That's brilliant, Betty, I exclaimed, admiration shining in my eyes. But do you think it'll work? Betty's smile widened, confidence radiating from her every pore. Trust me, Edward, it'll work like a charm. We just need to play our parts and let the rest unfold. With a renewed sense of purpose, we set our plan into motion, determined to show Dorothy and Ronald that actions have consequences, and arrogance comes with a price. As we rejoined the party, I couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that coursed through my veins, knowing that the best was yet to come. With Betty's ingenious plan in motion, a sense of excitement and anticipation filled the air. As we mingled among the guests, I couldn't help but steal glances at Dorothy and Ronald, eager to see their reactions unfold. Are you ready, Edward? Betty whispered, her voice barely audible above the chatter of the party. I nodded, a thrill of anticipation coursing through my veins. Absolutely, Betty. Let's do this. Together, we moved with purpose, executing each step of the plan with precision and finesse. It was a delicate dance, requiring impeccable timing and flawless execution, but we were determined to see it through to the end. As the evening progressed, Dorothy and Ronald found themselves drawn into the center of the unfolding drama, their arrogance and disdain serving as fuel for our fire. Excuse me, Dorothy, Ronald, Betty said, her tone polite but firm. Mind if we have a word? Dorothy's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering behind her gaze. What is it, Betty? Can't you see we're in the middle of something? Betty's smile was disarmingly sweet, her expression innocent as she laid the groundwork for our next move. Of course, Dorothy. I just wanted to congratulate you both on your recent successes. It must be quite an accomplishment to have a husband who's a Harvard-educated director. Dorothy's chest puffed up with pride, a smug grin playing on her lips. Yes, well, some of us are destined for greatness, unlike others. Ronald, ever the silent observer, finally spoke up, his tone tinged with arrogance. Indeed, Dorothy, we've worked hard to achieve the success we enjoy today. It's a shame not everyone can say the same. I exchanged a knowing glance with Betty, our plan falling into place with perfect synchronicity. It was time to unveil the final piece of the puzzle, to show Dorothy and Ronald the truth behind their facade of superiority. Actually, Dorothy, Ronald, I said, my voice steady and sure, there's something you should know, something that will change everything. As Dorothy and Ronald's eyes widened with disbelief, Betty and I shared a triumphant smile, knowing that our plan had succeeded beyond our wildest expectations. The stage was set for the ultimate revelation, and nothing could stand in our way. As the dust settled from the bombshell we had dropped on Dorothy and Ronald, the repercussions of our actions began to unfold. The once festive atmosphere of the party had turned tense, with whispers and murmurs spreading like wildfire among the guests. Betty and I watched from the sidelines as Dorothy and Ronald grappled with the reality of their situation. Their faces were pale, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief as they struggled to come to terms with the consequences of their actions. "I can't believe this is happening," Dorothy muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. "How could we have been so blind?" Ronald remained silent, his jaw clenched with frustration as he tried to process the gravity of the situation. It was clear that our revelation had shaken them to their core, forcing them to confront the truth they had tried so hard to ignore. "Edward, Betty," a voice called out from across the room, drawing our attention. It was Ethan, one of the company's executives, his expression grave as he approached us. "We need to talk," he said, his tone urgent. "This situation with Dorothy and Ronald has escalated beyond what any of us could have imagined. We need to address it before it spirals out of control." Betty nodded in agreement, her mind already racing with potential solutions. "Of course, Ethan. Let's find a quiet place to discuss our next steps." As we retreated to a secluded corner of the ballroom, Ethan wasted no time in getting down to business. "We can't afford to let this situation fester any longer," he said, his voice laced with concern. "We need to take decisive action to mitigate the fallout and protect the company's reputation." I nodded in agreement, fully aware of the gravity of the situation. "I understand, Ethan. We'll do whatever it takes to rectify the situation and ensure that justice is served." With our plan in motion and the support of Ethan and the company behind us, Betty and I braced ourselves for the challenges that lay ahead. The fallout from our actions would be significant, but we were determined to face it head-on, knowing that the truth would ultimately prevail. As the chaos of the party began to subside and the aftermath of our actions settled, Betty and I found solace in each other's presence. We stood together, hand in hand, knowing that despite the challenges we had faced, our bond remained unbreakable. "Edward," Betty said softly, her voice filled with warmth and affection. "We did it. We stood up to Dorothy and Ronald, and we came out on top." I smiled at her, gratitude swelling in my heart. "Yes, Betty, we did. And we couldn't have done it without your brilliant plan and unwavering support." Betty's smile widened, her eyes shining with pride. "We make a great team, Edward. Together, we can overcome anything." As we basked in the glow of our victory, a familiar voice interrupted our reverie. It was Ethan, the company executive who had stood by us throughout the ordeal, his expression one of admiration and respect. "I just wanted to commend you both for your courage and integrity," Ethan said, his voice sincere. "You handled the situation with grace and dignity, and I have no doubt that the company is in good hands with you at the helm, Edward." I thanked Ethan for his kind words, feeling a swell of pride in my chest. It was a testament to our resilience and determination, knowing that we had earned the respect of our colleagues and peers. As the party drew to a close and the guests began to disperse, Betty and I shared a moment of quiet reflection. Despite the trials and tribulations we have faced, we knew that our love and commitment to each other would see us through any challenge that lay ahead. "Edward," Betty said, her voice soft and gentle, "no matter what the future holds, I want you to know that I'll always be by your side. Together, we can weather any storm." Tears welled in my eyes as I looked into Betty's loving gaze, overwhelmed with gratitude for the life we had built together. "I love you, Betty," I said, my voice choked with emotion, and I couldn't imagine facing this journey with anyone else by my side. With our hearts full of love and hope for the future, Betty and I embraced, knowing that no matter what obstacles may come our way, We would face them together, hand in hand, embracing happiness every step of the way.